Well, it is no longer my due date, but it was about an hour ago, and my water broke, which has never happened on its own. And so now we are on our way to the hospital to meet with the midwife. I'm not really having like consistent contractions yet, but hopefully they will become that way. They're definitely not very strong, but I have had them like every day for over a week, just kind of on and off here and there. So hopefully there's more going on than what it feels like.
Every day you're singing, oh.
So it is 6:05, and John is sleeping. I am on the edge of the bed, quietly contracting for now. Well, I kind of left you guys hanging on that video there. There is more video footage after he was born that I will share after I share his birth story, but this is our sweet baby. He is looking a little old manish at the moment. It's so cute. I love the newborn stage because they look like little old men and little old women. By the way, his name is Joel, which means Yahweh is God. So Joel is actually a rainbow baby, meaning I actually had a miscarriage before him. So that was really difficult. And then the next month, actually, we ended up pregnant with Joel. So there's a little more background there. He's a super sweet little babe. But I am going to share with you now just kind of how things went. So I first want to say that this was my favorite birth out of all of my children. There has been some awesome things about each baby's birth. The main awesome part being getting to see them at the end and all of that. But the last birth I had before him was a bit traumatic in several ways, and I'm not going to go into detail on that. But it just was not a great birth experience. And so admittedly, I was very anxious leading up to Joel's birth. God was just so good. This birth was very redemptive. I had him with a midwife, and it was a completely natural birth. So I have never had my water break before on its own. And that, of course, is how my labor started. So that actually was a really cool experience. Thankfully, it happened at home at night when we weren't out and about or anything like that, or having any kind of obligations to be anywhere. So my water broke. I wasn't sure if it broke at first, because it wasn't like what I had experienced before. But again, I had only ever experienced water breaking by a doctor doing it. So, so it was very different, and I wasn't quite sure if my water had broken until finally I got up at one point, and it just like, there was a big gush after a while, and I was like, oh, okay, yes, it's for sure broken. And we were just kind of laughing about it and stuff. So, we waited a little bit and then called the midwife, and she said to go ahead and come in. And I had been having contractions just kind of on and off, nothing consistent and nothing super strong. And so we went ahead and went into the hospital, and sure enough, my water had broken, and my contractions were starting at that point pretty consistently. They weren't super strong, but they were definitely happening, and it was like legit labor contractions, not Braxton Hicks prodromal type stuff. And when I got there, I was not very far along in the labor process, And so that was kind of a bummer. I was kind of hoping I was farther into labor than what I was. But by the time we got in a room and everything, my contractions were still happening and they were getting a little stronger. And so through the night, things still kept going. And I progressed to 4 centimeters at that point, and then everything stopped by the morning. Everything just kind of fizzled out by early morning. And that was a big bummer. So we did some things to try to help, hopefully help get my labor started back up again. So we did we did circuits. We did some circuits. We did squats. We did some uneven walking. We did some, where I would sit on the birthing ball and do some different things, and also some pumping. And that the using the pump actually helped quite a bit, and I would start having really good contractions and then they would fizzle out again. So that was a bummer. Finally, I got to the point where my water had been broken for about 18 hours at that point. And so we opted just to see if we could kickstart my labor with the tiniest smidge of Pitocin. And that did it for sure, like the tiniest smidge. And just for a reference, I had a C-section with my first, but all the others have not been C-sections. So I have VBAC'd with all of my other babies. So, but the littlest smidge of Pitocin, and that definitely threw me into labor. And so we shut it off, and I just continued through the labor process. And the midwife that ended up delivering him, she was amazing. All my midwives were great. By the end of the shifts, because he wasn't born until 22 hours after my water had broken. So that the midwife that delivered him had just come on shift. So she was the third midwife that I had. But anyway, it was perfect. Everything was perfect in the sense of like, the midwife that I had before her, she was great at like cheering me on, rooting me on, helping me get into a good labor pattern. And then as I was hitting transition, I got to the point where it was just like, you get really restless. And it was perfect timing because there was a shift change, and the midwife that delivered him, she was just so calming and just so, I just can't even put into words. Like, she was just awesome. And she was helping with like counter pressure because I had horrible back labor and all that kind of stuff. And it really honestly didn't seem like that long of a time in the actual transition and pushing process till he came. And it was just amazing. Like, I don't know. It was great. I did have, so with my last birth, I did have a postpartum hemorrhage. It was not severe. And so I knew that that was going to be a risk this time around, especially with having multiple births, especially with having so many children. And so I did end up with a postpartum hemorrhage with him as well. I didn't need any like blood products or anything, so that I was definitely thankful for. But they did have to use a couple of different kinds of medicine just to help with that. But it was not anything super scary or like my life was in like extreme danger or anything like that. Like it wasn't severe at all. And so I was really thankful for that, and everything. My midwife was awesome with that. She was very prepared and like calm, and like she was just like, okay, you know, we're going to do this and that. And yeah, so she was great. So there was that. But the whole time that was going on, I was just in love with him. He was, you know, we were doing our skin to skin, and it was over it was almost 2 hours before they even weighed him or anything. He just laid on my chest, and it was awesome, and I don't know, it was just so different. And, of course, there's a lot more details when you're actually going through the labor, and you don't share all of it. At least I don't. Uh, but there were a lot more details that just made it so precious and so sweet and just a wonderful experience. We are just so grateful that he's here with us.
Oh, come be with us, Holy One. In my pain, I know you can feel it. There I find the comfort in your spirit. And every day you see